Okay, what I want to do is kind of walk through with you, or stumble through together, as it may be, to see how to do a manual installation of the XL and ME add-ins. In particular, the two add-ins that might be useful for fluid flow and heat transfer analysis. The first item would be to find out where can you get these add-ins. These add-ins are found at a site called Excel in mechanical engineering, or just Excel in ME. If you don't know how to find the site, you can go to Google, and if you can remember that you're looking for Excel in ME, and you type that in, it's going to be one of the top hits that comes up. In fact, the first 4 hits that come up are from our site. So Excel in mechanical engineering, this second one is the main page. This first one is probably a page that has more hits, but it's one of the sub pages. Here's the main page. And if we look to the left here, you see the index for the sub pages. The two that we're interested in today are the heat transfer add-in and the thermal systems add-in. If we go to the heat transfer page, you'll see, first of all, that there are some Microsoft installer files, MSI files, that you can download that should configure the add-ins to work on your machine. It requires, first of all, that you're running Windows operating system, and secondly, that you do have administrative rights to your computer, because it is an executable file that has to run, and you have to authorize it to run. If either one of these things is not true, then you can do a manual installation that does not require you to have administrative rights. You should be able to follow this procedure. So the first thing is, you scroll a little bit below here, you'll see the XLAM file and the corresponding CHM file. The CHM file is a help file. It has some of the background on some of the functions that are in there, and helps you understand how to use them. So it's good to have both of those. But before we download them, I want to make sure we have a place to store them, and the place you want to store them on your computer is in the C directory, C drive, in a folder called add-ins. I already have one here, so I'm going to just wipe it out, and we'll start fresh. That if I want to create a folder in the C drive that is called add-ins, I'll open the C folder, come over here off to the right of this pane, and right click. When I click with the right button, it brings up a menu, and I want to indicate that I want to add a new folder. Unfortunately, this is just out of your view, but when I click on new, then over here on the right comes up folder, and I do want to make a new folder, and I want to name it ADD-INS, add-ins. And we want to store all of our add-ins in this folder. So now we've got a place to put them on the C drive, and we're putting it in this folder called add-ins. I should comment that the add-ins actually could be stored anywhere on your computer, but it's most convenient if they're always in the same folder on the same drive. That way, if you take your folder, your Excel workbook to a different computer, and it's always going to look for those add-ins in the location that's stored inside your file. If it looks always in the C add-ins directory, then it could connect to it if they're always installed in that same place. Okay, so let's download these two files. I'm going to right-click on this and say Save Link As. So the name of the file is heattransfer.xlam. I don't want it to be in this downloads area. I want it to be in that folder we just created that's on the C drive. So I'll go there, find that add-ins folder, and put that file in that folder. Okay, and likewise, this second file, this help file that I mentioned, I want to save that in that same folder. In the same folder, C add-ins we're going to put the heat transfer.chm file. Okay, so now those are downloaded. There's one hurdle to clear here, or hoop to jump through, that's part of the Windows security scheme, and that is any file that comes from the internet that could be dangerous to you. Windows will quietly add a special feature to prevent you from accidentally using this file you downloaded. So to work around that, or to undo the security that Windows put in place, if you'll right click on the file, it brings up this menu, and at the bottom it says Properties. So when you right click on it and you bring up Properties, you'll notice at the bottom of this screen, bottom of this, it says Security. The file came from another computer and might be blocked to help protect this computer. You want to unblock this. That is, remove this block so that you'll be able to use this file. Okay, and then apply. And you'll need to do the same thing for this help file. Both of these types of files, it's possible that they can contain code that can be executed that potentially could be exploited by a hacker or someone who wants to do something bad to your computer. These two files are just some add-ins and some help files for heat transfer. They're not going to do anything malicious to your computer. Okay, so now we've removed the security block that the Windows operating system put in place because we downloaded these from the internet. Alright, so at this point what we need to do is open Microsoft Excel, and if we go to a blank workbook, we need to activate those add-ins. We need that one that we downloaded. Now, if you have already enabled this developer tab on your toolbar, which there's some good reasons to do that, but when you install Excel, by default it's not there. But if you do have this developer tab available, if you click on it and click on this field that says add-ins, that will bring you directly to the page that we need to use to manage these add-ins, to go and find the ones that we just downloaded. However, if you haven't done that, you can either activate this developer tab, or you can always follow this procedure. So here we go. If you go over to File, and at the very bottom where it says Options, and now this brings up another big busy tool bar. Next to the bottom, well, actually two things that we want to do here, but over here on the left, let's do this first. Add-ins. We want to go to where it says Add-ins, and now we've got another panel over here on the right. Down at the bottom of this panel, it says Manage Excel Add-ins. If we now say Go, we do want to manage the Excel add-ins. It brings up that same panel that I showed you earlier that you can get to off the Developer tab. But once you're at this location where you can manage these add-ins, now we want to do, we want to browse to find that add-in that we just created. So if you go there to browse for it, he's going to show you a place that he thinks the add-ins ought to be. Well, I told you we want them to always be in the same directory that's off the C drive. So navigate to the C drive, to that add-ins directory that we created. And the only one that's in there right now is the heat transfer.xlam. So we do want to click on that and say OK. And now two things happen. The heat transfer add-in has been added to the list, and it's been checked as being active. So that now means that Excel knows where to find that add-in, and that when it loads, when Excel is loaded subsequently, it will activate that add-in. So now we click OK, and we're almost ready, but you can see that it throws up an error. But what's going on here is when that module loads, it attempts to execute a piece of code, and in that piece of code, it can't execute it unless the Visual Basic project is trusted. So let's wipe this error clean, and then we'll be done. This is the last step. We need to end here. Want to go back to Excel, and under the same area where we were, File, Options. But now, just below add-ins is the Trust Center. So we want to visit the Trust Center, and in the Trust Center, we want to go down on the far right where it says Trust Center Settings. And under Trust Center Settings, you click on that, and that brings up another box. And at the where it says add-ins, it's about the middle of this column on the left. We click on macro settings. That's where we want to go. We want to go to macro settings, and the very bottom thing under macro settings says trust access to the VBA project object model. That's what we want to do. It's probably also a good idea to enable all macros. So macro settings, enable all macros, trust access to the VBA project object model. So with those options enabled, and we'll go back through that step again just so you can see it. We're going to go to File, Options, Trust Center, and then under the Trust Center Settings. And then under Trust Center Settings, we want to visit the Macro Settings link on the left panel, and then we want to enable all macros and trust access to the VBA object model. Okay, that was it. Easy. So now, hopefully, I'm going to close Excel and start all over and see what happens when we load Excel. When we start Excel now, as you can see, when we start Excel now, we do get this splash screen that announces that heat transfer version 1.0.2 is loaded. And this feature was implemented as part of the macro package so that you would know when you loaded Excel if you had access to those macros or not, those functions. So if we just click OK, that goes away, and then everything's the same as it would be otherwise. So if we want to start a blank workbook, we can do that. Let's see if those functions are loaded. The functions that are available in Excel were available through this toolbar. And if we click on this little FX right here, it actually brings up a box where we can browse the available functions. The default is to show you the most recently used ones, but rather than the most recently used ones, we can scroll in here and look under any category, including now at the bottom of the list you should see that heat transfer is one of the subtopics. And if you click on heat transfer, you can now see a list of functions that are available to support heat transfer calculations. Things like the efficiency of a fin are included, several of those as a matter of fact. And for each function that's in here, there's a brief description about them. Let's see, there's the heat transfer effectiveness. If you want to calculate the effectiveness NTU relationships, those are in here. The the correlations for the Nusselt number, new bar and new D bar, and the explanations are here. The new X plate, and then there's some other radiation functions down here that are useful. For each one of these, there should be some help available since we loaded those help files. So let's take a look and see if that's working for us. So this fin effectiveness rectangular C says it calculates the fin effectiveness for a circular rectangular profile fin. But down here on the bottom it says help on this function. So if I click on that, the help file gets opened up and it jumps to the help for that particular function. And the help was cobbled from the textbook by Increpera and DeWitt and others. And we've given reference to their figures here, but also the equations that support that. So there's a lot of information that's given here to help you use these functions, or to help you find out how to use these functions if you don't know how to use them. Okay, well, that's more than we wanted to do, but just to walk you through how to manually set up these add-ins for use on your computer. I should point out that once you've jumped through a lot of these hoops, like activating the trust center and things like that, if you now have another macro file, you just need to download that into the same folder, and then you'll need to allow Windows to unblock access to it, and then you should be able to just go and browse for adding that that one in. I think in just a minute that's left here, we can do that. For example, if we go to the thermal systems page on the XL in ME site, and if we look at the 415 add-in and the 415 help file. So let's save this 415 add-in in the same folder where we saved the heat transfer add-in, C add-ins. And now that that's downloaded, if we go into Excel and simply bring up our add-ins manager, I was cheating here a little bit. Mine was already listed, I think, but ME415 add-in is what that says. If we go to Browse and we go to that same directory, ME415 add-in.xlam, that's the one we want to add. We just have to browse and find it and click on it, and it says he gave me that message because I already had the file here. But regardless, now that's in place, we now also have access to the functions that are part of the ME415. Okay, well, enough said for today. I hope that gives you the ability to get these installed either on a machine to which you do not have administrative access, administrative rights, or if it's another operating system, specifically a Macintosh type system.